Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chess Spice. Today we are looking at the next endgame study explained, that is we are at the 25th position of our endgame study. Of course it is white to play and win over here. We can clearly see the fact that white king is well within the square of the black pawn and the black king is trying to reach the square of the white pawn. Right now we know that black needs two moves to get into the square. The king has to be on f3. Being on g2 is not enough because white will get the move b4. The first move b4 is very obvious, but it doesn't help. After the moves b4, h5, b5, h4, b6, h3, b7, h2, b8 equal to queen, and we know this typical theoretical position of queen versus pawn on the 7th rank, where we know that the king has to be in the winning zone, and the winning zone is from h5 to e5, e5 to d4, d4 to d1 and to h1. So this is the winning zone within which we should have the king, then only it's possible to win. And this position is drawn because after many checks the king will just keep on hiding on the h1 square and the game will be drawn. White has to look for some other way. These kind of positions, the technique involves around getting our king closer to the opponent pawn, and at the same time we try to push the pawn whenever the opponent's king is trying to reach the magic square. So the two moves which come to mind, very obvious ones, are king f6 and king e6. So the king wants to come towards the pawn and we are ready to push the pawn whenever the black king approaches our pawn. The move kg7 is absolutely useless because black just gets h5, and we see that attacking the pawn from side or rear is not helpful when the pawn is on its starting square. The pawn will simply advance. Now after b4, h4, b5, h3, b6, h2, we see that we have already lost a move from the previous position. So we will have simultaneous queens over there. King f6 and e6 are very interesting. Let's look at them one by one. After k e6, black immediately pushes the pawn to h5 when white will try to use the tactic based on king f5. Now this is what he wanted. White king is ready to capture the pawn, and we see that the black king is far away from the white's pawn. It's not in the square. So king g2. Now the point is simple. If the king now attacks the pawn, the black king just manages into the square of the pawn. So after b4, ke4, b5, kd5, the pawns will be mutually taken and the game will be drawn. And here after the move b4, h4, b5, h3, b6, h2, b7, we see that after h1, b8 queen, again the game is drawn. So the white king actually wasted one move in the process. So the game becomes drawn. Finally, the only option is the move king f6. Let's see whether it works. After kf6 also, black does h5. When there is king g5, the king immediately attacks the pawn and white is set to push his pawn. But black has kg2, b4. Otherwise, if king takes h5, the king enters the magic square of the pawn. So king f6, h5, kg5, kg2, b4, kg3. When we again see that after king h5, black plays kh4 and the king is right in the magic square of the pawn and king will take the pawn. So what should white do? Because if he plays b5, then black immediately plays h4, and we see that b5 and h4, they are all both on their respective 5th ranks and the pawns queen simultaneously. So is the position drawn? Let's play the moves and see. So kf6, h5, kg5, kg2. Now if king into h5, then kf3, b4, then ke4, and the pawn will be taken. So b4 forced, king g3. This is black's idea. black is trying to come near his own pawn and also is ready to go to the magic square of the white pawn. After king h5, kf4, b5, ke5, b6, kd6, and the white pawn is simply taken. It means now white has to enter the race of the pawn, but white had calculated from before that after b5, h4, b6, h3, b7, h2, we have forced the black king to a square where b8 comes with a check. The queen comes with a check, and we see that the pawn is now not able to queen. Not only that, the white king has managed itself within the winning zone of the pawn. So after kg2, there is a simple technique now. Queen settles on the 7th rank and the king comes nearer. So qb2 check, kg1. Sometimes people tend to get the queen as close as possible to the square e2 by series of checks. For example, qc1, kg2, qd2, kg1, qe1, kg2, qe2, kg1, and then complete the procedure. But here it's absolutely safe to play the move kg4. After h1 queen only move, white plays kg3 and black is in zugzwang. Now what we see, there are several mating threads, qf2, qb1, qc1. Sacrifice of queen on f3 and h3 doesn't lead to stalemate, and if the queen goes to e4, then we can do qc1, qe1, qe1 mate, or qf2, kh1, when qf1 and qh2 both lead to checkmate. This technique I have discussed in my positions based on the theory of queen versus pawn on 7th rank. I hope you are finding these lessons useful and instructive. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.